A lot of it is just my personality, which a few years ago over the holidays, I interviewed my grandparents and my parents to figure out where this obsession with money came from, because I've been obsessed with money for as long as I can remember, to be honest. And chatting to them, they really felt that it was just like a inbuilt thing. It's definitely something that's clicked with me. I have a really analytical brain, so math has always been a favorite and numbers make sense to me. But yeah, my grandma recounts a story where they had a friend over and they were throwing quarters into their pool. And as soon as I found one, I just obsessively just dove for more and more quarters as a young, like 4 or 5 year old kid. And then I had to go home and go to bed for school. And as soon as I got home, I called my grandma and said, "Did anybody find any more money in the pool?" And I was just obsessed with it. So I don't really know why, but as far as I can remember, that's what I've been focused on. And I always wanted to be rich one day, not because I liked fancy cars, or I don't think I've ever used money to like try to impress people or anything, but I just wanted to be rich and have that security and have a portfolio to manage. But I never really like was in a hurry. So it was, I don't know, I can't remember what year it was, but it was a long time ago. And I came across getrichslowly.org and I was like, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. I just want to get rich slowly. There's no rush. It's not like I need a new Porsche or something. So that really appealed to me. And then it was through his site that he ended up interviewing Jacob Lundfisker from earlyretirementextreme.com. And that was the first time I heard that phi math of retirement's not an age. It's actually just a function. It's a formula, and it's just based on your spending and your income. So it was just eye-opening. And that just flipped a switch, because it went from like a vague goal of getting rich, which again, I didn't really know why. It was just, I thought, yeah, I want to get rich one day, to then having a concrete thing like, okay, wait, I can buy my freedom. And then it was just crazy from then on, and maybe a bit too crazy, which I think we'll talk about a little bit. But yeah, once I realized, yeah, that retirement wasn't an age, it was a formula, it was an equation, really. That was it. I was off to the races.
So at that point, Brandon, when you said you just wanted to be rich, you wanted to cut out early. So did you have any concrete ideas of what you wanted to do versus working?
No, I always knew best. So every boss I had, I was smarter than, and I knew better than them in my mind, which is a good trait, I guess, because I feel like I can do anything, but it's sort of bad in some ways too, because yeah, I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm still doing like physical things that I think that I could do when I was 20. So I always just had a lot of confidence, I guess, in my abilities, and I couldn't handle the bureaucracy of big organizations, and I couldn't handle having some managers that maybe weren't as competent as me in certain areas telling me how to do those certain things. So it was more a freedom thing. It was never I just want to do nothing thing. I was too risk averse to be an entrepreneur. I really respect people that just chuck it all in and just go for it. I could never do that. I always imagined I would start businesses after reaching FI, because I'll set myself up, and then that way I can take more risks and it won't matter if I fail at these things. Funny thing is, once you have enough money, then money is no longer really a motivating factor anymore. So all those businesses I thought I would start, they were all just money based. Like, it wasn't for the actual joy of creating something. It was more, oh, I could do this and that would make me more money than my current job. But then once you have enough money, then that motivation sort of goes. So I haven't created all those businesses that I thought I would, but that's okay, because I've found other things to do. But yeah, it was mainly I just wanted freedom to do the work that I wanted to do and not have to answer to bosses and things like that.
Well, you say that you were sort of money obsessed when you were a kid, and you collected quarters from the bottom of the pool, and maybe you hoarded a little bit. Did your parents instill this in you? Because there's genetics to this, and there's epigenetics where the environment may influence you. Did you have money scarcity? What was money like in the household? Or was this just your thing and your parents couldn't understand it?
So my brother is good with money, and we grew up in the same household. He is definitely the opposite. Not the opposite, but he's good with money, but he was a spender as a kid. So my mom, in that episode that I talked about where I interviewed her, she recounted a story where like we'd both get like $10 from grandma for Christmas or something. And my brother Brian would immediately spend it, and that would be gone. It would be some toy that just broke, and he would spend it immediately. And then whereas I would save it, or I would try to find some way to grow that money. And that was a very different behavior, whereas we both grew up in the same household. Money scarcity, like my parents divorced when I was in kindergarten. So a lot of the time it was my mom working to support us. So money was never abundant, but it was never tight in a way that it impacted us as kids. We would know the value of money because we would never waste anything. And like we would often hear no every time we asked for like, for those the pump shoes in the 90s where you could pump up the soles. And it took me many years of begging for those to get those for Christmas, I think probably for my grandparents one year or something. So yeah, it was definitely, money was tight, but I don't feel any like money scarcity or anything like that. My brother's very different to me. We both grew up in the same house, just a couple years apart. And now having kids of my own, I realize how much more their little personalities are just baked in. I would have said a lot more environment was impacting personality before having kids, but now that I see my two kids and they're so different and they've been the exact same household pretty much for 3 years. So yeah, I'd say a lot of it's inbuilt. Some of my upbringing has played a part, and especially like my dad had always told me about investing in things, and he bought me 5 shares of stock back in the days when you'd look it up in the newspaper and it would be like 11 and 7/8 and stuff. So I think that played a part, and he always talked about starting early because of how it can compound. So I think a combination of all those things really.
So you came out of the gates on fire. Your hair was on fire, maybe 18, 21. You go through college, you become a tech guy. You're one of the original Tech 5 people that blogged. How did you get it right out of the gates? In my 20s, I was bumbling around, trying to figure things out. And I woke up to money at 50. It took me 20, 30 years to figure this out. You got it right from the beginning and you retired at 34. What did you do that was right? And then what did you do that were the mistakes along the way?
Well, I think that meeting my wife when we were 20 probably played a big part. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't out at the bars every weekend trying to meet people and things like that. And she was thankfully okay with my extreme frugality. So we did a lot of really cool things. We just did them more intelligently maybe than the average 20-year-old. We bought a house in 2004 or 2005 in Scotland. We did it up. It was before I knew what a live-in flip was. We just bought a house that we didn't like and then made it into something that we did like. But then we decided to move to the States. So we sold that in 2007, right before the whole world collapsed, financial world collapsed. And we made 50% on that. So that was luck, that was timing. But it was also me wanting to build wealth and buy an asset and improve it. So there was a little bit of that, but also there was a ton of luck and timing, which luck is obviously a huge part of many people's FI journeys. So the timing was perfect. And yeah, we made 50% on that in like 2.5 years. Whereas usually you buy a house and sell it in 2.5 years and you're underwater, and that's a huge mistake. There was a lot of luck to it. But again, it goes back to my constant focus on the money. To give you an example, my wife, then girlfriend, she got the opportunity to go to China for 3 months to do optometry because she had to go back to school in the States. When we moved back to the States, her UK qualification didn't count. So she had to go back to school, and she had the opportunity to do that. And I was like, well, let's do that. That sounds amazing. So I'll quit my job because I was a good saver back then, even before I knew what FI was, and we'll go there. So we did that. And when I was there, the iPhone just got released in China. So I created an iPhone app to teach Chinese people English. It was like just a Chinese translator thing for the first iPhone that came out in China. So that's just an example of like me always trying to make more money in some way. So even though I was there just knowingly not having a job for 3 months, it was just in the forefront of my mind, like, oh, I could use this time to maybe build something that could pay me money in the future. And it did for a little while. I made a few $1,000s over a couple of years off of it, which back then when I wasn't having any sort of income coming in, that was great. So yeah, there's a lot of luck involved in the timing of things, but focus on that. And like debt was never an issue, but never an option, like credit card debt or anything. To give you some more luck involved, we didn't have any money to put the down payment on the house that we bought in 2004. So we borrowed off of my in-laws, and then we took a mortgage out on the rest. So that was the only sort of debt that we had. We weren't racking up credit card debts or anything. But yeah, so it's having that support system there. So going back to the luck and that aspect of it, like we're lucky that we have families that were in a position to support us in those early days. And we borrowed that money and then we paid it back in full. But we wouldn't have been able to buy that house had we not had that loan from my in-laws. And that then builds on everything. So it's like that set us up early days. And then the habits that we formed kept us going and then kept enabling that pile of money to grow and grow.
I am so excited to announce our new partnership at Catching Up to Fi with Monarch. Monarch is a comprehensive financial tool to monitor your financial health and life. I have been using Monarch for 3 years to track my spending, net worth, budget, savings goals, and more. I am not a spreadsheet nerd, and without Monarch's robust, intuitive tools and user interface, this process would have seemed impossible. I was recently also able to seamlessly share my data with our new flat fee financial planner for a retirement readiness checkup when I turned 60. He uses Monarch with all of his clients. After our analysis, I was shocked to find out that we were financially independent 3 years before I thought we would be. You can't manage what you don't measure. Using Monarch was critical in this review and planning process and remains important in monitoring my ongoing financial health. Thanks to Monarch, all of our podcast listeners and community members have access to a 50% discount off their first year subscription. Simply follow the link below and use the discount code CatchingUp50 at checkout. I am proud to say that my sons are the first to use the code to join the Monarch family. I encourage you to share this link and code with family and friends this holiday season who need or want to take back their money and grow their wealth. I cannot think of a better, more generous, or valuable gift or resolution. Happy holidays from all of us at Catching Up to Fi.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. And our editor is Fritz Brizard. We love them and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptofi.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to Fi. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to Fi. Cheers.